My daughter chose the woman who abandoned us over the man who raised her. Sarah told me that she banned me from her wedding last month. 22 years of being there. Every scraped knee, every homework struggle, every college application. But when it came to walking down the aisle, she wanted Linda, the woman who disappeared when Sarah was 3. I didn't argue, didn't beg, just smiled and said, "Congratulations, sweetheart. I hope it's everything you dreamed of." What Sarah didn't know was that smile wasn't defeat. It was mathematics. 22 years of receipts, bank statements, loan documents, business ownership papers she never knew existed. Because exactly 20 minutes after she said, "I do," her perfect day was about to get very, very expensive. And Linda was about to learn that abandoning a family has a price that comes due with interest. Stay with me. You'll want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back to how this all started. 3 months ago, at what was supposed to be a family dinner celebrating Sarah's engagement to Dr. Michael Blake. I was proud of her. My little girl, now 25, a registered nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. She'd worked hard to get there. Well, we'd worked hard. Me at Henderson's auto shop during the day, Murphy's construction in the evenings, and weekend landscaping jobs when I could get them. 3 jobs for most of her childhood, just to make sure she had what she needed. The dinner was at Romano's, that Italian place downtown where Sarah likes to go for special occasions. 15 people around a long table, her cousins, my sister Janet, Michael's parents, Dr. Richard, and Patricia Blake. Country club people, the kind who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Florida. That's when Linda walked in. I hadn't seen her in 19 years. She looked good. I'll give her that. Designer dress, perfect makeup, hair done at some expensive salon. She'd been living in California, she said, finding herself, healing from the trauma of young motherhood. "Tom," she said, like we'd talked yesterday instead of her walking out on a 3-year-old who cried for her mommy for 6 months straight. "You look well." Sarah lit up like Christmas morning. "Everyone, this is my mom. My real mom, real mom." Like the woman who'd bandaged her scraped knees and stayed up all night when she had pneumonia at age 7 was just some substitute. Linda slid into the seat next to Sarah, the one I'd been sitting in. "I've missed so much," she said, touching Sarah's engagement ring. "But I'm here now for the important parts." Michael's mother, Patricia, leaned forward with interest. "Linda, what do you do?" "I'm a wellness coach in Marin County. I help people reconnect with their authentic selves." She glanced at me in my Henderson's Auto Shop uniform shirt. "It's so important to surround yourself with people who understand your journey." The conversation flowed around me after that. Linda talked about her meditation retreats, her organic juice cleanses, her spiritual awakening. Sarah hung on every word like she was hearing the meaning of life. "Dad," Sarah said during dessert, "Linda thinks it would be meaningful if she walked me down the aisle instead of you." The table went quiet. Michael shifted uncomfortably. His parents exchanged glances. "It's just," Sarah continued, "Linda and I are both on this journey of healing and growth. The Blakes understand that kind of spiritual connection. It would be more authentic." Linda nodded sagely. "Sarah's entering a new phase of life. She needs someone who can guide her spiritually, not just someone who raised her. Someone who just raised her. 22 years reduced to just." "The thing is, Dad," Sarah's voice got smaller, but her words cut deeper. "The Blakes have certain standards. Their friends, their social circle. Linda fits into our new world better. You're just the man who raised me." Janet, my sister, dropped her fork. "Sarah, honey, what are you saying?" "I'm saying Dad doesn't really understand my life anymore." "Linda does. She gets what Michael and I are building together." Patricia Blake smiled approvingly. "It's wonderful when a family can heal old wounds." Michael finally spoke up. "Sarah, are you sure about this?" "Completely sure," Linda answered for her. "Tom did his job. He kept Sarah safe until I could come back and be her real mother again." I looked around that table. 15 people watching this play out. Some shocked, some uncomfortable, some, like the Blakes, nodding like this made perfect sense. I understand, I said quietly. Sarah, if that's what you want, then congratulations. I hope your wedding day is everything you've dreamed of. Sarah smiled with relief. Thanks, Dad. I knew you'd understand. But what Sarah didn't know was that those nursing school loans she thought were forgiven through some government program, the ones that would have been $2,800 a month for 4 years, I'd been paying them every month for 48 months straight, $134,400 so far, with 12 payments left. What she also didn't know was that Vintage Motors and Restoration, the classic car shop where Michael had proposed to her last spring, the one he'd paid $15,000 to rent for a private evening among the vintage Mustangs and Corvettes, that was my shop. Had been since 2018. I'd been working evenings there, restoring classic cars, building a little nest egg for retirement. Michael never knew he was paying me to propose to my own daughter. As we left Romano's that night, Linda gave me a patronizing pat on the shoulder. Tom, you should be proud. You did what you needed to do as a temporary guardian. Now Sarah can have her real family back. I smiled at her, the same smile I'd given Sarah. You're right, Linda, I said. Sarah is going to get exactly what she's chosen. 3 weeks later, Sarah called me to make it official. I was not invited to the wedding. Linda would walk her down the aisle. Linda would be in all the family photos. Linda would give the father of the bride speech at the reception. I hope you understand, Dad. This is just how it has to be. I understand completely, sweetheart, I told her. Enjoy your special day. Because what Sarah was about to learn is that choices have consequences, and mathematics doesn't lie, even when people do. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was working late at the shop, rebuilding the engine on a 1969 Camaro SS. Sarah's ringtone, You Are My Sunshine, the song I used to sing to her when she couldn't sleep. Hi, Dad. Her voice had that careful tone she'd been using since the dinner, like she was talking to a distant relative instead of the man who'd raised her. Hey, sweetheart, how are the wedding plans coming? That's actually why I'm calling. She took a breath. I wanted to explain why this decision makes sense. I don't want you to feel bad about it. Feel bad? Like I was a child who needed consoling. The Blakes have been so welcoming to Linda, she continued. Patricia, that's Michael's mom, she and Linda went to lunch yesterday. They have so much in common. Both educated, both well-traveled. Patricia lived in Europe for 2 years when she was younger. That's nice, honey. And Linda's been telling me stories about when I was little. Before she left, I had no idea how creative I was as a toddler, how advanced my vocabulary was. She remembers things you never told me about. I remembered those things too. Sarah's first word was Dada. Her second word was truck, because she loved watching me work on the Ford in our driveway. She used to bring me plastic tools and help me change the oil. But Linda wasn't there for any of that. Dad, the thing is, as Sarah's voice got that edge it had when she was about to say something she knew would hurt. Michael's family moves in certain circles. His father is chief of cardiology at Presbyterian. His mother chairs 3 different charity boards. When they have gatherings, it's doctors, lawyers, business owners. I see. And Linda fits in with that world. She has her wellness business. She's well-spoken. She understands the social dynamics. She knows which fork to use at formal dinners. I'd taught Sarah which fork to use. Spent hours with library books when she was 12, learning table manners so I could teach them to her. Made sure she could hold her own in any social situation. The Blakes have been so kind, Sarah continued, but I could tell they were a little concerned about your background. Patricia asked what you did for work, and when I said mechanic, she got this look. Not mean, just worried about fit. Worried about fit. She's not wrong, Dad. You're a good man, but you don't really know how to talk to people like the Blakes. Remember at the engagement dinner when Dr. Blake mentioned his golf handicap, and you talked about handicapped parking spaces? It was sweet, but embarrassing. That's what she meant. Michael's been amazing about it, she rushed on. He keeps saying family is family, but I can see it bothers his parents, especially since the wedding guest list is mostly their friends from the country club where I'd never be a member, where my work clothes and calloused hands would stick out like a sore thumb. Linda's different, Sarah said. She can talk about art, literature, travel experiences. She's been to wine country in France. She knows about meditation retreats in Bali. When Patricia mentioned her favorite restaurant in Napa Valley, Linda had eaten there too. Of course she had. 22 years of freedom to eat at fancy restaurants while I was packing Sarah's school lunches and helping with homework. And honestly, Dad, Linda understands what Michael and I are trying to build together. We want to be part of that world. The cultural events, the charity galas, the social connections that help careers. Linda gets that. She's been networking her whole adult life. Networking. While I'd been changing diapers and sitting through parent-teacher conferences and working overtime to pay for her college. So you see why this makes sense, right? Linda walking me down the aisle isn't about rejecting you. It's about choosing the parent who can best represent who I'm becoming. And who are you becoming, Sarah? Someone sophisticated. Someone who belongs in Michael's world. Someone who isn't held back by... She stopped. By what? Silence. By what, Sarah? By small-town thinking. By blue-collar limitations. By people who don't understand that there's a whole world beyond Henderson's auto shop and weekend barbecues and shopping at Walmart. There it was. The truth underneath all the gentle explanations. I see. I knew you'd understand. That's why you're such a good dad. You always want what's best for me, even when it's hard. What's best for her? Like cutting me out of the most important day of her life was some kind of gift I was giving her. Linda's going to give a speech at the reception, too, Sarah added, about my journey from childhood trauma to healing, about how important it is to surround yourself with people who elevate your consciousness. Childhood trauma. Well, growing up without my real mother, Linda says that kind of abandonment creates attachment issues that take years of therapy to resolve. 22 years of being there every single day, and Sarah was calling it childhood trauma. Anyway, I should go. Linda and I are meeting Patricia for brunch tomorrow to discuss flower arrangements, but I'm so glad we talked, Dad. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. After I hung up, I sat in my shop for a long time, looking at that 1969 Camaro. Original numbers. Matching engine. Worth about $45,000 fully restored. But some things, once you break them, can't be put back together the same way. Though that doesn't mean they can't still run. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and 22 years of paperwork spread out in front of me. Bank statements, loan documents, work schedules, medical bills, school records, the mathematics of being a father. I'd kept everything. Every receipt, every payment record, every document that proved what those 22 years had actually cost. Not just money, though there was plenty of that, but time, opportunity, choices I'd made, and chances I'd given up. The student loan paperwork was on top. Sarah thought those loans had been forgiven through some government program for nurses. She'd never asked for details, just accepted that her monthly payments had somehow disappeared. The truth was simpler and more expensive. When Sarah graduated nursing school with $134,400 in debt at 6.8% interest, her monthly payments would have been $2,800. For a new nurse making $2,800, $52,000 a year, that was impossible. So I called the loan company, set up automatic payments from my business account, told them to list the borrower as current and in good standing, but never told Sarah I was the one making the payments. For 48 months, $2,800 had come out of my account on the 15th of every month. $134,400 so far. 12 payments left until the loans were completely paid off. Sarah had no idea. I pulled out my phone and called the loan servicing company. At 11:30 p.m., I got their automated system. Press 1 to make a payment. Press 2 to change payment information. Press 3 to speak with a representative about your account. I press 2. To change or cancel automatic payments, press 1. To update your address, press 2. To add a cosigner, press 3. I pressed 1. The system walked me through the options. I could cancel the automatic payments effective immediately, or schedule a future cancellation date. I chose a future date. November 4th, 2024. The day after Sarah's wedding. Starting November 4th, Sarah would begin receiving monthly bills for $2,800. Late fees after 30 days. Default proceedings after 90 days. Damaged credit after 120 days. The consequences of choosing Linda over the man who'd been quietly paying her bills for 4 years. But that wasn't the only mathematics that mattered. I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled out the business documents for Vintage Motors and Restoration, the shop I'd bought in 2018 with money saved from years of weekend work. My retirement plan, my nest egg, my quiet pride and joy. Michael Blake had no idea he'd paid me $15,000 to rent my own shop for his proposal. The invoice had been processed through my business manager, Jennifer Martinez, who handled all the bookings. Michael thought he was dealing with some anonymous classic car collector who rented out his space for special events. The proposal had been beautiful, I'll give him that. He'd filled the shop with white roses and candles, set up a private dinner table between a 1967 Mustang convertible and a 1970 Corvette Stingray. Sarah had posted the photos all over social media. The most romantic proposal ever at this gorgeous vintage car museum. She thought it was a museum. I looked at the rental agreement Michael had signed. Standard contract, $15,000 for a 4-hour private event, with an option to purchase any of the vehicles on display at fair market value. That 1967 Mustang convertible, the one Sarah had posed next to, the one she'd called absolutely perfect, was listed at $42,000. But according to the contract, Michael had first right of refusal at the displayed price. Sarah had mentioned wanting that exact car for their wedding exit. Wouldn't it be perfect, driving away in the same car where we got engaged? Michael had been trying to track down the owner for weeks, calling Jennifer's office, asking about purchase options. He was willing to pay the full $42,000, but the mysterious owner hadn't returned his calls. I was the mysterious owner. I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Jennifer. Please contact Mr. Blake and let him know the 1967 Mustang is available for rental for his wedding day. Standard rate, $500 for a 6-hour rental. Perfect for wedding exit photos. I scheduled the email to send on October 20th, 2 weeks before the wedding, just enough time for Michael to book it, just enough time for Sarah to get excited about their perfect exit. The same car where they'd gotten engaged. The car owned by the man who wouldn't be at their wedding. Mathematics doesn't lie, and sometimes the numbers tell a story that words can't capture. Sarah wanted authenticity. She was about to get 22 years worth of it. The question wasn't whether I had the right to show her the true cost of her choices. The question was whether she was ready to pay it. We'd find out on November 3rd. October 20th came faster than I expected. I was under the hood of a 2018 Honda Civic at Henderson's when my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Tom, that Blake guy just called about renting the Mustang for his wedding. Should I book it? I wiped my hands on a shop rag and called her back. Hey, Jennifer. Yeah, book it for November 3rd. Standard 6-hour rental, $500. He sounded really excited. Said his fiancée has been dreaming about driving away in that exact car. Jennifer paused. Isn't your daughter getting married November 3rd? Jennifer knew about Sarah. She'd seen the engagement photos Sarah posted, had even commented on how beautiful the proposal setup looked. What she didn't know was the family drama behind it. Yeah, that's Sarah's fiancé. Oh. Another pause. Tom, are you okay with this? I mean, if there's family stuff. It's fine, Jen. Business is business, but it wasn't just business. That evening I drove to Riverside Gardens, the wedding venue. I'd never seen it before. Sarah had handled all the planning with Linda and Patricia Blake. No reason for the mechanic father to be involved in venue selection. It was beautiful, I'll give them that. Rolling lawns leading down to the Potomac River, a white gazebo for the ceremony, a restored 1920s mansion for the reception, the kind of place that costs serious money. I parked in the visitor lot and walked around the grounds. A groundskeeper was trimming hedges near the main building. Beautiful place, I said. Sure is. You here for the Blake wedding this weekend? Something like that. This must be expensive to book. He laughed. You don't want to know? But these folks have money. The bride's family paid for the whole thing up front, cash. 45,000 for the venue, another 30 for catering, 15 more for flowers. Someone's spending 100 grand on this party. $100,000. Sarah had never mentioned the cost, but then again, why would she? She thought Linda was paying for it, or maybe the Blakes were covering everything. What she didn't know was that 3 months ago, a cashier's check for $45,000 had been drawn from my business account to secure the Riverside Gardens venue. The deposit had been made in Linda's name. She'd offered to handle the booking since she understood these kinds of places better. But the money came from me. Linda had no credit, no savings, no way to put down a $45,000 deposit. So she'd called me, crying, saying this was her chance to do something meaningful for Sarah, to prove she could be a real mother. All she needed was for me to front the money. She'd pay me back from her wellness coaching business. Of course she would. I'd written the check because I wanted Sarah to have a beautiful wedding. I'd assumed I'd be there to walk her down the aisle, to give a father of the bride speech, to dance with my little girl at her reception. But now I was just the man who'd paid for the venue where he wasn't welcome. The next morning I called the loan servicing company. This time I got through to a real person. First National Student Loans, this is Rebecca. How can I help you? I need to verify some information about an account. Borrower name Sarah Harrison, Social Security ending in 7284. Are you the borrower or authorized contact? I'm the authorized payer. Thomas Harrison. I've been making automatic payments for 4 years. Keys clicking. Yes, sir, I see your account. You're current on all payments. $2,800 monthly automatic withdrawal on the 15th. Outstanding balance is $33,600 with 12 payments remaining. I need to cancel those automatic payments. May I ask why, sir? Your payment history has been perfect. Family circumstances have changed. I understand. When would you like the cancellation to take effect? November 4th, 2024. Let me see, the day after your next scheduled payment. So the November 15th payment would be the first one that doesn't process automatically? Correct. Mr. Harrison, I have to let you know that if these payments stop, the borrower will be responsible for resuming payments immediately. At 6.8% interest on the remaining balance, that's still $2,800 per month. If Miss Harrison can't make those payments, the loan will go into default. I understand. The borrower will receive notification of the missed payment within 5 days. Default proceedings begin after 90 days of non-payment. Thank you, Rebecca. After I hung up, I sat in my office at the shop for a long time. On my desk was a photo of Sarah from her nursing school graduation. She's wearing her cap and gown, holding her diploma, beaming with pride. I'd been so proud of her that day. My little girl, who'd worked so hard, who'd earned her degree, who was going to help people and make a difference in the world. That photo was taken on May 15th, 2021. 3 days later, her first student loan payment was due. 3 days later, I started paying $2,800 a month so she could start her new career without the crushing weight of debt. For 3 years and 4 months, I'd been her silent financial guardian, the invisible safety net that let her build her new life. But invisible safety nets only work when people appreciate them. When people choose to walk away from the person holding the rope, well, gravity has a way of reminding them why the rope was there in the first place. I picked up the photo and put it in my desk drawer. Some lessons can't be taught. They have to be learned. And Sarah's education was about to get very expensive. The confrontation came on a Saturday morning. I was at the shop, working on the Mustang's final detailing for the wedding rental, when Linda's BMW pulled into the lot. She stepped out wearing designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Behind her came Sarah, looking uncomfortable. "Tom," Linda called out as they approached, "we need to talk." I set down my polishing cloth and walked over. "Ladies, what can I do for you?" "Sarah's been feeling guilty about the wedding situation," Linda said, like she was a therapist managing a patient. "I told her we should clear the air." Sarah wouldn't meet my eyes. "Dad, I just want to make sure you're okay with everything. I don't want you to think I don't appreciate what you did for me growing up." "What I did for you?" I kept my voice level. "Sarah, what exactly do you think I did for you?" "You know. Raised me, kept me fed and clothed and safe until Linda could come back." Linda nodded approvingly. "Tom, you were a good temporary guardian, but Sarah needs her real family now." "Temporary guardian." I repeated the words slowly. "That's what 22 years makes me?" "Don't be dramatic," Linda said. "You did what any decent person would do when a child needs care. But that doesn't make you her parent. Biology makes you her father, but I'm her mother." I looked at Sarah. "Is that how you see it? 22 years of temporary guardianship?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, you're making this harder than it has to be." Linda's right. You did your job. You should be proud of that. "My job?" I nodded. "Tell me, Sarah, do you remember when you were 7 and had pneumonia? Who stayed up with you for 4 nights straight, sleeping in the chair next to your bed?" "Dad, that's not the point." "Do you remember when you were 15 and Jessica Miller's mom said you couldn't go to the homecoming dance because your dress was too cheap? Who worked overtime for 2 weeks to buy you that $300 dress from Nordstrom?" "Tom," Linda interrupted, "you're being manipulative. Using guilt to make Sarah feel bad about choosing authenticity over obligation." I turned to Linda. "Authenticity? That's what you call it? Sarah is choosing to heal from the trauma of growing up without her real mother. She's choosing spiritual growth over emotional dependency on the person who just happened to be there. Just happened to be there." "Where were you when she had her tonsils out at age 9? I asked Linda. "Where were you when she broke her arm falling off her bike? Where were you during algebra homework and driving lessons and college applications?" "I was healing," Linda said firmly. "I was becoming the mother Sarah deserved, not the broken young woman who couldn't handle the responsibility." "For 19 years. However long it took." Linda's voice got sharper. "And now I'm here, and Sarah is choosing growth over stagnation. You should support that instead of trying to hold her back with guilt and obligation." Sarah finally spoke up. "Dad, Linda's helping me understand that healthy relationships aren't based on keeping score of who did what. They're based on who helps you become your best self." "And I don't help you become your best self?" "You helped me survive," Sarah said quietly. "But Linda helps me thrive." I looked at my daughter, 25 years old, standing in my shop, telling me that the man who'd sacrificed everything for her had only helped her survive. "I see," I said. "Well, then I hope the thriving goes well for you." I turned back to the Mustang. "Tom," Linda called, "I'm glad we had this conversation. I think it's healthy for everyone to understand their role in Sarah's journey." I kept polishing the chrome. "Linda, you might want to be careful about understanding roles." "What do you mean?" I looked up at her. "I mean, sometimes people don't know what role they're actually playing until the final act." They left after that. But as their car pulled away, I noticed Sarah looking back through the rear window. For just a moment, she looked like the little girl who used to bring me plastic tools and help me work on cars. But only for a moment. The social media campaign started 3 days after our confrontation. I first noticed it when my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, stopped me at the mailbox. "Tom, honey, is everything okay? I saw some concerning things on Facebook. I didn't have Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Never saw the point." But Mrs. Rodriguez showed me her phone, and there it was. Linda's post from the night before. "Difficult conversation today with Sarah's father figure. It's so hard when people use guilt and manipulation to prevent healing. Grateful that Sarah is strong enough to choose authentic family relationships over toxic dependency. Hashtag healing, authentic self, hash boundary. Settling, hashtag toxic family. 43 likes, 12 comments of support. That's not the Tom I know, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. You want me to say something? No, but thank you. But it didn't stop there. The next day, Sarah posted on Instagram a photo of her and Linda at some expensive brunch place, both holding mimosas and smiling. Learning so much about healthy family dynamics from my mom. Sometimes you have to cut toxic people out of your life, even when they're family. It's not about punishment. It's about protecting your peace and choosing people who support your growth instead of trying to control you. Healing, toxic family, choosing, peace, growth. 215 likes, comments from her nursing school friends, neighbors, even some people I'd known for years. So proud of you for setting boundaries. Family isn't always blood. It's about who shows up for your highest good. You deserve people who celebrate you, not guilt you. By Thursday, the narrative was spreading. Linda posted again, this time a long essay about codependent parenting and emotional manipulation disguised as sacrifice. When someone keeps track of everything they've done for you, that's not love. That's emotional blackmail. Real love supports your journey without keeping score. Real parents want their children to thrive, not remain dependent. So grateful that Sarah has the courage to break generational patterns of dysfunction. That one got shared 28 times. But here's what Linda and Sarah didn't know. My customers were on social media too. It started with Frank Kowalski, whose 1985 Corvette I'd been restoring for 6 months. He commented on Linda's post, "Lady, I don't know what you're talking about." Tom Harrison is the most stand-up guy I know. Been bringing my cars to him for 12 years. Never met a more honest, hard-working man. Then came Maria Santos, who'd brought her Honda to Henderson's for 8 years. This is about Tom Harrison, who works at Henderson's Auto? Are you kidding me? This man stayed late to fix my car when I was 8 months pregnant and had no other transportation. Wouldn't take a dime extra. Miss me with this toxic nonsense. Within hours, the comments multiplied. Customers, neighbors, people from Sarah's own childhood who remembered the truth. Tom Harrison coached my son's Little League team for 3 years. Volunteer, never missed a practice. I watched this man work 3 jobs to put his daughter through college. If that's toxic, we need more toxic parents in this world. Sarah Harrison, I taught you in 4th grade. Your father never missed a parent-teacher conference, not once in 6 years. This is shameful. The tide was turning, but Linda doubled down. She posted a video of herself in her car, makeup perfect, voice trembling with manufactured emotion. I'm getting attacked by people who don't understand the complexity of family trauma. They think because someone shows up, that makes them a good parent. But showing up can be its own form of control, doing things for people so they'll feel obligated to you. That's not love. That's manipulation. But the video backfired. The comments were brutal. Where were you for 22 years while he was manipulating your daughter by raising her? This woman abandoned her kid and has the nerve to criticize the man who stepped up. Sarah, your dad deserves better than this. We all watched him sacrifice everything for you. By Friday night, Sarah had turned off comments on her Instagram posts. Linda had stopped posting entirely, but the damage was done, and not to me. Because what they'd accomplished was simple. They'd reminded everyone in our community exactly who Tom Harrison was, and more importantly, they'd shown everyone exactly who they were. The court of public opinion had rendered its verdict, and Sarah was about to learn that when you try to rewrite history, sometimes that the truth writes itself. Sunday morning, I got a text from Jennifer at the shop. Tom, Michael Blake called 3 times yesterday. Really wants to confirm the Mustang rental for tomorrow. Should I call him back? I smiled and typed back. Tell him everything's confirmed. The car will be ready exactly when he needs it. Because mathematics was about to become very public. Sunday night, I spread everything across my kitchen table. 22 years of being a father, reduced to paper and receipts and bank statements. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about accounting. When someone claims you just happened to be there, it's time to show them the mathematics of just happening. I started with the medical records. Sarah's pediatrician, Dr. Williams, had retired 2 years ago, but his office had sent me copies of everything when they closed. Every appointment, every emergency visit, every insurance claim. The emergency room visit when she was 7 months old. Fever of 104. Insurance covered most of it, but I still paid $1,847 out of pocket. I was working at Murphy's Construction then, making $12 an hour. That hospital bill was 2 weeks' pay. The tonsillectomy when she was 9. Surgery, anesthesia, overnight stay. My portion, $3,200. I'd sold my motorcycle to cover it. The broken arm at age 12. Emergency room, orthopedic surgeon, physical therapy, $2,650. Dental work throughout her teens. Braces, retainers, wisdom teeth extraction. Total, $8,900. College preparation, SAT tutoring, application fees, campus visits, $4,200. I added it up. Medical expenses alone, $89,000 over 18 years. Every penny paid by the man who just happened to be there. But the medical bills were just the beginning. I pulled out the school records. Every parent-teacher conference, every school event, every volunteer activity. I'd kept the sign-in sheets, the volunteer schedules, the photos from class parties and field trips. Sarah's kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had written in my file, "Mr. Harrison is the most involved parent I've ever worked with. Sarah is lucky to have such a dedicated father." 3rd grade, Tom never misses a conference or school event. Sarah clearly thrives with this level of parental support. 6th grade, in 20 years of teaching, I've rarely seen a parent as committed as Mr. Harrison. He volunteers for every field trip, every classroom party, every fundraiser. In high school, 4 years of football games. Sarah was in marching band. Drama productions. She played violin in the pit orchestra. Honor society ceremonies. Graduation committees. I counted them. Over 12 years of school, I'd attended 247 documented school events. PTA meetings, band concerts, science fairs, award ceremonies, fundraisers, volunteer workdays. 247 times I'd left work early or rearranged my schedule or found coverage for my shifts. 247 times I'd just happened to be there. The work records told another story. I'd kept every timesheet, every schedule change request, every performance review that mentioned my need for flexible hours. Henderson's Auto Shop. Tom is our most reliable mechanic, but we've accommodated his parenting schedule for 12 years. He's never missed work except for his daughter's needs. Murphy's Construction. Harrison consistently requests schedule adjustments for school events. We've approved every request because of his otherwise perfect attendance. Weekend landscaping jobs. I'd worked for 6 different companies over the years, always on weekends, always cash under the table. The money went straight into Sarah's college fund. I pulled out the college financial records. Sarah had gotten into 3 schools: State University, $28,000 per year; private college, $45,000 per year; and her dream school, Nursing University, $52,000 per year. She'd wanted Nursing University. They had the best program, the highest pass rate on licensing exams, the best job placement statistics. So I'd made it work. Loans for her, loans for me, every dollar I could scrape together. 4 years at $52,000 per year. $208,000 total cost. Sarah graduated debt-free from her perspective. The student loans in her name had been transferred to my account before her first payment was due. She never knew. But that wasn't the end of the education costs. Nursing boards, licensing fees, professional development courses, uniforms, equipment. Another $12,000 over 4 years. Total education investment, $220,000. I sat back and looked at the numbers. Medical expenses, $89,000. School and activities, $15,000. College and nursing school, $220,000. Living expenses over 22 years, $180,000. Clothing, food, transportation, housing, $156,000. Total documented investment. In Sarah Harrison, $660,000. But the real cost wasn't in the spreadsheet. It was in the opportunities I'd passed up, the relationships I'd never pursued, the life I'd put on hold. Jennifer Martinez had asked me out 4 times over the years. 4 times I'd said no because I was focused on being the best father I could be. 4 times I'd chosen Sarah's needs over my own happiness. The motorcycle I'd sold for medical bills. The job promotion I'd turned down because it would have meant traveling. The house I'd wanted to buy but couldn't afford because every dollar went to Sarah's future. I'd given her everything. Not just money, time, attention, sacrifice, love. And tomorrow she'd marry a man who'd paid me $15,000 to propose to her. Drive away in a car I owned, all while celebrating with people who thought I was too embarrassing to attend. The math was about to become very public. November 3rd dawned clear and crisp, perfect weather for a wedding. I spent the morning at the shop, giving the 1967 Mustang convertible one final polish. Candy apple red paint gleaming, white leather interior spotless, chrome bumpers mirror bright, the perfect exit car for the perfect wedding. At 2 p.m., I loaded the car into my trailer and drove to Riverside Gardens. The wedding was set for 4 p.m., reception at 6 p.m. I was scheduled to deliver the car at 7 p.m., right when the happy couple would be ready for their grand exit. The grounds were transformed. White chairs arranged in perfect rows facing the gazebo, flower arrangements that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, a string quartet warming up near the riverside. Elegant, expensive, exactly what Sarah had dreamed of. I parked my truck and trailer in the service area behind the mansion. Through the trees I could see guests arriving, the men in expensive suits, the women in designer dresses, the kind of people who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Florida, the kind of people who would never accept a mechanic. At 4 p.m., I heard the music start. Canon in D, Sarah's favorite piece since she'd played it in high school orchestra. I watched from a distance as the wedding party walked down the aisle. Michael's groomsmen, Sarah's college friends as bridesmaids. Then came Linda, wearing a flowing lavender dress, walking arm in arm with Sarah in her $3,800 wedding gown. Sarah looked beautiful, radiant, everything a bride should be, and I wasn't there to see it. The ceremony was brief. I couldn't hear the words from where I stood, but I saw the kiss, heard the applause, watched as Mr. and Mrs. Blake posed for photos with their new son-in-law and the woman who'd abandoned him when he was 3. At 6:15, the reception was in full swing. I could hear laughter, music, the clink of champagne glasses. Through the mansion's tall windows, I saw the guests mingling. Linda holding court with Patricia Blake and her country club friends. Sarah and Michael moving from table to table, accepting congratulations. At 7 p.m., I unloaded the Mustang and drove it to the front of the mansion. A valet took my keys and parked it prominently where the guests could see it, ready for the perfect exit. I walked around to the service entrance where catering staff were rushing back and forth. The head waiter recognized me from my phone call that afternoon. "Mr. Harrison, we have your envelope ready." I'd told them I was the owner of the rental car, there to collect payment and discuss vehicle care with the groom. They'd agreed to let me speak with Michael briefly during the reception. "They're about to start the toasts," the waiter said. "After the father of the bride speaks, I can bring you in." "Actually," I said, "I am the father of the bride." The waiter's confusion was clear on his face. "But the woman who gave the toast said she was the bride's mother, and she talked about raising Sarah." "It's complicated," I said, "but yes, I'm Sarah's father. The real one." At 7:30, the waiter led me through the mansion's back corridors to the reception hall. 150 guests seated at round tables, crystal chandeliers overhead, the kind of elegant party Sarah had always dreamed of. Linda was at the microphone just finishing her speech. "And so Sarah has shown us all that healing is possible, that families can be redefined, and that love isn't about obligation. It's about choosing to grow together. To Sarah and Michael, may your marriage be built on the same authentic foundation that brought us all here tonight. Applause, glasses raised, Sarah dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. That's when I stepped into the room. Sarah saw me first. Her face went white. Conversation stopped rippling outward from where I stood until the entire reception hall was quiet. Michael stood up. Sir, I think there's been a mistake. This is a private event. No mistake, I said, walking toward the head table. I'm Tom Harrison, Sarah's father. Murmurs went through the crowd. Linda's face had gone pale. Sarah was gripping Michael's hand like a lifeline. I'm also the owner of that 1967 Mustang you've been wanting to buy, I continued, addressing Michael. The one you rented for your proposal. The one parked outside for your exit tonight. And Michael's confusion was genuine. You're the owner of Vintage Motors? I am. And Sarah, I'm also the person who's been paying your student loans for the past 4 years. The silence was deafening. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Would you like to see the payment history? $2,800 a month for 48 months, $134,400 so far. Sarah found her voice. Dad, what are you doing? I'm providing some clarity, I said calmly. See, your mother here gave a beautiful speech about authentic relationships and healing, but I think there are some facts missing from that story. I looked around the room. 150 pairs of eyes watching, waiting. Linda left when Sarah was 3 years old. I raised her alone for 22 years. I worked 3 jobs to pay for her college. I've spent $660,000 on her medical bills, education, and living expenses over the past 22 years. I gestured toward Linda. Linda disappeared for 19 years. $0 contributed. 0 school events attended. 0 late-night emergency room visits. 0 homework help. 0 parent-teacher conferences. Linda started to speak, but I continued. Sarah, those student loans you thought were forgiven, I've been paying them. Your rent during nursing school that you thought your scholarship covered, that was me too. The car you learned to drive, I bought it. The house you grew up in, I paid for it. I pulled out a folder from my jacket. I have 22 years of receipts, bank statements, medical records, school attendance records. Would you like me to go through them? Sarah was crying now. Dad, please don't do this. Do what? Tell the truth? Provide evidence? Use mathematics instead of feelings? I turned to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard about authentic relationships tonight, about choosing growth over obligation, about real family versus temporary guardians. I looked directly at Linda. So let me share some authentic mathematics with you. I pulled out my phone again. As of tomorrow, November 4th, Sarah's student loan payments will resume. $2,800 per month for the next 12 months. If she can't make those payments, the loans go into default. Sarah gasped. Dad, you can't. I'm not doing anything, sweetheart. I'm simply stopping doing something. There's a difference. I turned to Michael. And that Mustang you wanted to buy? The one you paid $15,000 to rent for your proposal? That was my shop, my car, my $15,000. Michael sat down heavily. As for tonight's exit, I continued, I think we need to discuss the rental terms. See, the contract specifies that the vehicle can only be driven by the renter or his immediate family members. I looked at Sarah. Are you my immediate family member, Sarah? Or are you Linda's daughter who was raised by a temporary guardian? The room was absolutely silent. Because if I'm just the man who happened to be here, if Linda is your real mother, then legally speaking, you can't drive my car. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the car keys. So what's it going to be? Are you the daughter I raised for 22 years? Or are you Linda's daughter who needs to find her own ride home? Sarah broke down completely. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about the loans. I didn't know about the shop. I didn't understand. You didn't want to understand, I said quietly. You wanted to choose the easier story. The story where your real mother came back and saved you from the man who was holding you back. I looked around the room one more time. Enjoy your reception, everyone. The mathematics don't lie, even when people do. I turned and walked toward the exit, the car keys still in my hand. Behind me, 150 wedding guests sat in stunned silence, while the bride who'd chosen authenticity learned exactly how authentic 22 years of sacrifice really was. I made it halfway to my truck before Sarah caught up with me, running in her wedding dress, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Dad, wait! Please!" I stopped but didn't turn around. "I was wrong," she sobbed. "I was so wrong about everything. The loans, the shop, all of it. I had no idea what you'd sacrificed." "You had no idea because you didn't want to know," I said quietly. It was easier to believe Linda's story than to face the math. "I'll make it right. I'll tell everyone the truth. I'll post on social media. I'll call Linda out for lying. Sarah," I finally turned to face her. "This isn't about social media or public apologies. This is about choices and consequences." She wiped her nose with her sleeve, looking for a moment like the little girl who used to help me in the garage. "What can I do?" "You can learn to pay your own bills. You can figure out your own transportation. You can build your marriage without my money, holding it up." "But Dad, I love you. You're my father. You raised me. I know what I did, sweetheart." "The question is whether you do." Michael appeared behind her, looking shell-shocked. "Mr. Harrison, please. We can work something out. About the car. About the loans." I looked at him. "Michael, you seem like a decent man. You paid market rate for my services. You treat Sarah well from what I can see. But this isn't about you." I held up the car keys. "These represent 22 years of showing up. Every single day. You want to drive my car? Then show me 22 years of commitment to my daughter." Sarah grabbed my arm. "Dad, please don't leave like this." "It's my wedding day." "It's your choice day," I corrected. "You chose Linda. Live with that choice." I got in my truck and started the engine. Through the windshield, I could see wedding guests streaming out of the mansion, watching the drama unfold on the front lawn. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror of Sarah in her wedding dress, standing next to the Mustang she couldn't drive, while Linda and the Blake family tried to figure out how to save a reception that had just learned the difference between appearing to be family and actually being family. My phone stayed silent for 3 days. On the 4th day, I got a text from an unknown number. "Dad, this is Sarah." New phone. "Linda's cut off my old one. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "When you're ready to discuss the $33,600 in student loans and 22 years of actual parenting, call me. Until then, enjoy your authentic family. Mathematics doesn't negotiate. And sometimes love means letting people learn